Astral Chain for the Nintendo Switch was something that didn't grab my attention at first. The combat looked, frankly, a bit ridiculous and over the top to my liking, and how the game presented itself somehow put me off. I don't know if it's the dark, moody sci-fi setting or what. For some reason I just didn't have a good impression of it. But I noticed that my perception of Astral Chain was similar to Nier Automata. The same sort of thoughts were going through my mind when I first saw it as well. I didn't expect to like that game at all, but in the end I did, very much. So I looked up some gameplay footage of Astral Chain and thought, hey, this looks like it might play a lot like Nier Automata. It's got the same sort of fast-paced action and flow. I started noticing some more similarities, like how the damage numbers scatter across the screen and the way the characters move around. Astral Chain had a really similar vibe. Not to mention, I learned that Astral Chain should actually have been spelled with 2 S's. The similarities were uncanny. After looking at Astral Chain's Wikipedia article, I found out that both games have Takahisa Tora in common. Another name that came up was Hideki Kamiya, famous for his work with the Resident Evil, Devil May Cry, and Bayonetta series. Those were all games I don't really have much to say about. In fact, I didn't like Bayonetta, but more importantly, he served as the director for Okami, which is one of my favorite games. So, could Astral Chain offer me something great even though I thought I wouldn't like it at first? Turns out the answer was yes. I really like the combat. It's really fast-paced with admittedly a lot of game mechanics, but that also means you have plenty of options in combat. The graphics look stylized with a cold and moody atmosphere. It's a take on the very popular cyberpunk idea. Cyberpunk, the genre, I should say. The word existed before the game was conceived. The game world feels lived in and it feels like there's always something to do. There's little side events you can take care of during your missions. Vending machines talk to you and have different personalities. You can pick up litter and throw it in the trash. After taking out the trash, make sure to feed the cats too. Customize your character's appearance to your liking. Go fursuiting at a police station and then beat up this guy. But what is this game even about? The world of Astral Chain is quite grim, as games of this sci-fi genre are. Humanity isn't doing too well. What's left of the population has congregated onto a large artificial island called the Ark. Humans are attacked by monsters called chimeras, who come from a different dimension called the Astral Plane. As you can imagine, that is very ungood. Regular people can't see chimeras and seem to be not aware of their existence. Rather, what they see is aberrations, which are humans that are contaminated with red matter. But there is a group called the Neuron Police Task Force that is equipped to fight these normally invisible chimeras. They employ captured chimeras to fight alongside them called Legion, hence the word chain in the title. As you may imagine, you play as one of those people. You're one of 2 adopted twins. One's a girl, the other a guy. Even though you get the choice of which twin you play as, there's actually one correct choice you can make here. You can choose their name, or do as I did and hit random a few times. Things like hairstyle, skin, eye, and hair color are all customizable. In fact, you'll find color customization options all over the game. That's pretty cool, and you can change that stuff whenever so you don't have to commit to your color palette. There's several distinct locations throughout the game. The HQ is where you stock up on supplies, customize your character's look, and sometimes do some side quests. Manual saving is possible here too, though the game does autosave to the same save slot. You can have 2 save games, by the way. I like the training area where you can go through various fight mechanics again, just to freshen up. You can think of the HQ as an RPG town, but instead of having, say, different districts, it's all arranged into various floors. When you're out for a mission, you often find yourself in a futuristic urban environment. There's times where you have to investigate the area by searching for clues, questioning people, and things like that. Basically, investigative work. It's not like we're playing LA Noire here, but I didn't expect to find such gameplay in Astral Chain, but I like it. You have something called an iris, which is a sort of augmented reality contraption. It allows you to see all sorts of things. Often it can make dark or more obscured areas easy to navigate, or easier to navigate anyways. Other times, it allows you to see things like camera footage overlaid onto the real world. It's like a snippet of time captured 3-dimensionally. It has all sorts of functions which you can use in and out of battle. Speaking of battle, it won't be long before you encounter some chimeras and have to fight. The gameplay can be quite complex because there's a lot of gameplay mechanics, though the fundamentals are simple since it's a hack and slash type deal. You can do melee or ranged attacks with your character. You can mix it up as you see fit, but I tend to stand back and shoot from afar. What really sets Astral Chain apart are the Legion. They're like semi-autonomous party members in a way. A lot of the time you can just let them do their thing, but you can be more specific with what you want to do. Pressing certain buttons at the correct time allows you to perform stronger moves and finishers. Finishers also replenish your health, which is great. You can control your Legion with the right analog stick if you're also holding down the LZ button. This comes in handy in all sorts of situations, and a lot of times you actually have to do it because there's platforming elements here and there as well. One function I like is that you can wrap your chain around the enemies to stop them in their tracks, at least for a few moments. Gives you an opening to attack. It also works on unruly humans too. As you progress through the story, you capture several chimeras which have different abilities. The first one uses a sword, whose special ability is to cut things with a sword, believe it or not. Sometimes you come across enemies that are linked together by a beam, which you have to first sever before you can inflict damage on them. You can also use it to activate switches and get through certain doors. Another one uses arrows. You can aim manually, both in battle and when running around doing highly realistic cop things. It reminded me how you have to use different brush techniques in Okami, both in battle as well as accessing certain areas. Just like normal people can't see you do the brush techniques in Okami, regular folk aren't able to see your Legion doing its thing either. I guess certain game mechanics get carried through to other games in some way. You also have to go through portals that lead to the Astral Plane. Sometimes this is voluntary, other times not. This is the realm of the Chimera, so everything looks quite different. It's almost like a digital wasteland. Or you could say that the environment looks like the cubes in Super Mario Odyssey, except more diseased. Wait, what's this? A vending machine out here? There are vending machines everywhere, which may not be a surprise considering this is a Japanese game. But these vending machines talk to you and have different personalities. There's cheerful ones. Occasionally you'll find tsundere ones too. And this poor guy is just trying to survive. Other than having the side effect of providing comedic relief, you can also buy drinks from them that boost certain stats. There's a few different difficulty levels to choose from. I set mine to casual. I've never really been close to dying, so I could up it by one, but I'm having a lot of fun, so why mess with that? The game looks pretty good. It's like a really well done Xbox 360 or PS3 game. No, it's not 1080p. I don't know what it is exactly, but it's clearly below that number. Menu text suffers the most in my opinion. Nothing better than reading fuzzy text. The lack of anti-aliasing and anisotropic filtering is really obvious. The shading is nice though, and the lighting works really well. The only other visual offense I can make out are the terrible shadows, like from the player characters. That seems to be a Switch tradition now. There's a lot of games where that suffers. It's like the soft edges just look odd. The overall look is dominated by the art style though, so it still looks great. The only thing I wish the game did was run at 60 FPS, not at 30. I'm sure there was no way to consistently hit 60 frames per second without hitting the game with an ugly stick. In fact, the game even has slowdowns here and there at 30. Or rather, I guess the point is that sometimes it runs below that. But that's not super common. I can't say I noticed the frame rate fluctuations during fights that much since there's so much stuff going on with the effects. Honestly, I think it's a bit too much. But during exploration, something like a metal staircase will suddenly bring the performance down. It's quite noticeable because you wouldn't expect that to happen when you're just walking around. There are some moments when you're trying to collect all the red matter where you have to be pretty quick. Like there's one instance, I'm not sure if I recorded it or not, but you have to ride your Beast Legion across disappearing floor tiles, but the red matter only renders just as you're running past, or just before anyways. So as you're steering towards it at the last second, you'll probably fall down, lose health, and you'll have to repeat the process a few more times. It may sound like I'm complaining a lot, and I am, but like I said, I still really like the overall look of the game. Just because there are technical shortcomings doesn't mean it can't manage to be immersive. I feel drawn into the game world every time I play Astral Chain. I've got no problem with how the game sounds. Sound effects suitably sound like what they're trying to portray. The music is a real highlight. It's like a combination of a certain Magical Index and Railgun soundtracks mixed together with the Nier Automata soundtrack plus gent riffs. I really like it. There's a wide palette of moods. Musically, the game is very interesting and it helps establish the proper mood in every situation. And guess what? Rejoice! English dub or Japanese sub, whichever you prefer, there is a choice. I don't have a problem with either. As usual, I started with whatever the default one was and switched languages later on just to see how it is. I'm now used to the Japanese voices, so I'm going to just leave it at that. The text is localized, so you'll hear honorifics, but they won't show up in the subs. Overall, I really like Astral Chain. I felt quite immersed in the game's world, and I like that you're never stuck doing the same thing for too long. The customization options are cool, though admittedly I haven't really done much in that department yet. But choice is good, so I'm sure there are people who enjoy changing outfits, colors, and all that sort of stuff. If you missed a few side events or side quests, or want to collect all the remaining red matter, you can replay previous missions too. I will say that it did take me a while to get used to the controls because I'm used to hitting Y to attack in hack and slash games, not ZR. It does get apparent why that is later on, but for me it was a bit of a learning curve at first. Another thing the game does occasionally is reset my weapon back to the baton, even though I pretty much exclusively use the gun. So then it's like, oh no, I'm using the wrong weapon and I have to fumble around for a second. Another little complaint is that I find the maintenance that you have to do on your Legion a bit annoying. To me, it's just a hassle, so what's the point other than taking time away from playing the game? But anyways, that's that. I'm glad I gave the game a shot because it's one of my favorite ones I've played this year. I hope you enjoyed today's look at Astral Chain. Thank you to everyone who watches and supports the channel. Check out the merch store if you want to support me, as well as the Patreon page. You can find me on a bunch of different places on the internet, like Twitter, and I also made an Instagram account, which may or may not have anything on it yet. Not sure how I'll use it yet, but we'll see. Thank you for watching, and I'll see you again in the next video.